Bonjour tout le monde, j'espère que ça va bien. J'espère qu'on a de la belle température comme derrière moi virtuellement dans le parc Strathcona. Notre vidéoblog cette semaine, c'est avec Marcy Morris, qui est la directrice exécutive du Conseil du sport d'Ottawa. Ça, c'est le groupe qui est là pour défendre les intérêts de la communauté sportive, beaucoup de bénévoles, les jeunes, les clubs dans notre ville. Qu'est-ce qui se passe durant la période COVID? Qu'est-ce qu'elle voit dans les prochaines semaines et pour l'été? On parle aussi au directeur général des services de loisirs et de récréation à la ville. On parle des installations, on parle des sports qui peuvent être pratiqués. On parle aussi des annonces provinciales qui ont lieu cette semaine et surtout des camps d'été. Qu'est-ce qui va avoir lieu à la ville? Voici l'information que l'on a présentement. Good morning, Marcy. How are you?
Good, thanks. How are you, Matt?
Good. My video blog this week is with the head of the Ottawa Sport Council, Marcia Morris. Marcy and I know each other for some time, and I thought it was very important for our community to see how the sports community has come together over the last number of years, but even more specifically during this period. Maybe, Marcy, for those at home who don't know, can you tell us a bit about yourself and also what the Ottawa Sport Council is all about?
So the Ottawa Sport Council came to fruition in 2013 as a result of community sport organizations asking for support and help. Across the country, 73% of community sport organizations are run by volunteers. So those volunteers are often quite taxed with just putting people into the field of play, let alone all the things that they have to do governance-wise or financial-wise or fundraising. And they really needed support. So in 2013, a number of us came together to establish the Ottawa Sport Council. And we really have three main objectives in our support of the community sport organizations. We provide education to them, we provide advocacy for them, and we also have created an endowment fund to ensure that everybody can participate in sport, especially those with barriers to access, be those barriers to access for a disability reason or a financial impairment or anything like that. When all of this broke, we were in the tail end of winter season sports. And, you know, the reality for those sports was huge in terms of their playoffs, in terms of their national championships. So the weekend that everything was shut down, there were actually the Ontario Provincial Ring-Out Association championships were on. And the executive director had to walk into arenas and take everybody off the ice. So we were supposed to host the Nationals, the National Ring-Out Championship in Ottawa in April. And obviously that didn't happen. So from a perspective of disruption, just like every other aspect of our life, sports has been majorly disrupted. You know, you then turn to summer sports and you look at all of these sport clubs that by now they should have been in the field of play. In fact, May 15th is usually the opening of fields in the city.
I was going to say the long weekend.
Yeah.
Usually
yeah, and before that, of course, everybody's going through their tryouts, they've picked their teams, people are starting to practice. Games, you know, in many leagues would have started in a couple of weeks. So that registration hasn't even happened, obviously. So the big unknown is, number one, what will sport look like in the future? Number two, what will be the availability of facilities within a municipality? Number three, what will people feel about sport? Will they be afraid to come back to it? So, you know, the impacts right now are everybody is mitigating them the same way that they're doing in every other sector. But it's going to be very interesting in this sector, just like other sectors, is what does the future look like and how is that going to change? I think at the end of the day, the little local community sport organization is really has to take all of that feedback that's being provided to them and provide their own plan. And that plan is so out of their control. So they obviously have to follow the mandates of their national sporting organization, their provincial sporting organization. Then they also have to marry that with what the city is saying and what the city's saying in terms of their facilities. And then they also have to marry that in terms of public health. And then most importantly, they're going to have to come up with a plan that meets the safety requirements of their participants. So it might be one thing that just like, for example, in Quebec with the schools reopening, the schools have reopened, but there are many parents, a large majority of parents who've chosen not to send their children to school. So it really doesn't matter what the sports sanctioning bodies say if your participants don't want to come back, and if you can't create that environment that makes them feel that you are on top of it. So I think the reality is that little sport organization is really it's the first point of contact, and they've got to get it right, because they're not dealing with high performance athletes. They're dealing with, you know, the people on the sidelines that have to feel safe about coming back. And there aren't a million people looking out for them as there are for the high performance athletes. They have to provide that assurance that what they can provide is going to be safe and be following all the guidelines before people are going to want to come back. So I see it as a slow, gradual return that you know, it's going to have to be done in phases. And the reality is, just like with any other sector, is it affordable? So if we decide that we can, as opposed to putting, you know, 11 people on a soccer field, we are only allowed to put 7 on a soccer field. First of all, how does that change the sport? But secondly, is that affordable in terms of the facility cost? Is that affordable in terms of the referee costs? So there are all those things that are going to have to be balanced, and it ends up coming down to that local sport organization that's got to put all those pieces together and figure out what's best for its members.
Alors, bonjour tout le monde. Après avoir rencontré Marcy Morris, qui, elle, est directrice générale du Conseil du sport d'Ottawa, maintenant, je rencontre le DG à la ville des services de loisirs, d'art et de la culture, M. Chénier. Bonjour, Dan, comment ça va?
Bonjour, conseiller, ça va bien.
Et mettant notre chapeau vraiment plus sport, parle-moi un petit peu de la ville. Évidemment, on a beaucoup d'installations, que ce soit les espaces, les terrains, que ce soit les gymnases, les piscines, les arénas. Qu'est-ce que ça veut dire maintenant? Et puis, comment on va faire la location? Évidemment, ce n'est pas nous autres qui décident tout, là. Les directives viennent de la province, puis les municipalités en Ontario, on s'adapte aux réalités de ces directives-là.
C'est ça, comme à date, depuis le 16 mars, les installations sont toutes fermées à la ville, à l'intérieur et à l'extérieur. Comme vous le savez, dans un parc, on pouvait marcher à travers le parc, mais on ne pouvait pas se servir de l'équipement, des aires de jeu, ainsi de suite. Hier, on se parle le matin après que le Premier Ford ait fait une annonce qui a commencé à un peu relaxer les règles de ce côté-là. On va pouvoir commencer à servir des installations dans les parcs qui permettent quand même de se distancer des autres. Alors, on parle du tennis, probablement. On parle probablement aussi d'accès aux rives d'eau pour le canot, le kayak, ainsi de suite. Alors, ils vont aussi permettre l'accès au terrain de soccer, au terrain de football, mais à l'instant, pas en groupe. Alors, la règle qui limite le rassemblement à 5 est encore en place, qui veut vraiment dire qu'une joute de match de soccer ou de football, on n'est pas rendu là. Alors, on peut se servir des terrains pour une activité individuelle ou en petit groupe, mais les locations, puis les compétitions, puis tout ce qu'on s'attend des terrains de sport, ça sera pour un peu plus tard. Plus de 10 000 inscriptions dans nos camps d'été pour cet été, puis on sait qu'on est rendu presque à mi-mai, puis que le début du mois de juillet, c'est vraiment quand les gens regardent au camp d'été, pour une aventure d'été pour les enfants, naturellement, mais aussi parce que les gens travaillent, puis les enfants sont en vacances. Alors, on espère encore offrir, on n'a pas cancellé nos programmes. On pense que la province va, si il nous accorde la permission de commencer les camps d'été, sans doute, ça va être en plus petits groupes. Probablement un maximum de 5 enfants par groupe. Plus d'activités dehors, probablement aucun voyage en autobus, aucune visite ou à des sites intérieurs où on rassemble les jeunes, les théâtres, des attractions comme ça.
Spécialisé.
Probablement plus d'activités dehors, à l'extérieur, qui permettent la distance entre les participants. Puis probablement des exigences comme prendre la température des participants et des employés chaque jour. Des choses comme ça pour essayer d'éviter la propagation du virus.